This week on Beyond the Blast Doors Live, how much is too much to know about Luke Skywalker's appearance on The Mandalorian?
You see your crew just staring at Mark.
The correct answer, there's no such thing as too much. We have the most interesting moments from this latest Disney Gallery episode. Plus, Qi'ra has her own story continued in a trilogy of comic book events penned by Charles Soule. We'll explore what this could mean for the character's return to the screen. And I finally made it to Galaxy's Edge, where my off-world visit exceeded expectations. What did I smuggle off from my personal collection? And did I get enough Hondo and Naka? I love Jim Cummings. We have a full show for you. Welcome to our Star Wars conversation.
From the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the Midwest, you're watching Beyond the Blast Doors Live.
David Amalotti, your host, with you. And of course, we are set up for a great next hour of Star Wars conversation. If it's your first time here, if you're back, maybe you've been gone for 8 months. Welcome to our Star Wars conversation, friends. It feels great to be back. I have been thinking about this moment since last Thursday because that was the first moment in 8 months where I was like, I want to do a show. I want to talk Star Wars. I want to visit with people, find out what's going on in their lives. I want to find out what's exciting them, what's not exciting them. And here we are sitting down for this moment. If this is your first time, well, let me do just a little bit of a shameless plug because I need you to like, I need you to comment, I need you to subscribe. Now, obviously, we're doing a live show, whether you're watching us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. You can always go into that YouTube live stream after it's all wrapped up, drop a comment, and who knows, we might be doing a giveaway at some point in this episode. I have things to give away, and I have money to ship things, so we're sparing no expense here on Beyond the Blast Doors Live. Really excited to be here. Like you've already seen from the top of the show, we've got a lot to dive into. Of course, everyone's buzzing about this behind-the-scenes look at The Mandalorian Season 2, which we got with the latest episode of the Disney Gallery that dropped on Disney Plus this morning. It was exceptional. We're going to dive into it in just a couple of minutes, and we're going to talk collectibles, and we're going to talk about comics, and we're going to talk about, you know what? We're going to talk about it all. But first things first, I want to say hi to everyone that's in the live chat. Thank you for sticking with me for the better part of 8 months, for the better part of 5 years. We're going to address that, I'm sure, at some point tonight. But we have Jesse, we got All Remaining Systems, we got Matthew, Cast the Wills, we got Scotty, we got Pete, we got this is a great crew. Glad to have everybody out here. This feels really good. I'm in a good place, and I'm really excited to talk Star Wars with you. And it's so interesting because it has felt like we were in a little bit of a lull. Yes, we had the Bad Batch. And yes, the last 3 episodes were fantastic. And yes, I'm not going to talk about it much more beyond this. It's okay. It's coming. Bad Batch will be discussed at a later time. But I am a fan. After being a curmudgeon about that series for the first 7 episodes, the last 3 really won me over. But it feels like it's picking up now. It feels like we're getting into the main stretch. Of course, Book of Boba Fett is coming out in December. And so I say that, but it is also another lull. We got out of one, and now we're back into another because we're looking around. Bad Batch just finished. We get the behind-the-scenes look at The Mandalorian, but there's nothing really actively happening here in the fall unless you look at the comics, unless you look at the books. And we are going to talk about the comics because it seems like Qi'ra is going to be the mainstay for comics, at least for the next year with Charles. So we'll dive into that in about 30 minutes. Let's see how everyone's doing in the live chat. I want to see how everyone's doing. Everyone's getting reacquainted. This is fantastic. Yes, it's been 8 months away. It has been a bizarre. I said there's no way that 2021 can be worse than 2020. And man, did life knock me on my butt and prove me wrong. So first things first, big thanks for everyone supporting the show and supporting the network. While I stepped away, it was a really fun year. And yes, we disbanded back in May. Everyone's still doing their projects. Everyone's still friends. It's all good. If you look in the live chat right now, whether you're watching live or you're on the rewind, you'll see that like 3/4 of the network is in this live chat right now. It is all good. And everyone was super supportive of me not wanting to be around pretty much at all. I was spending a lot of my time going down and see my dad. And so, over the last 8 months, it's been ongoing pandemic. It's been stuff with work. It's been dad's health, dad passing in June. And for some reason, I thought, you know what, maybe doing a show tonight is a way to make it feel like dad's closer than further away. And so with that said, I want to go ahead and start rolling with the show because we got a lot to get to. I'm not going to attempt to try and catch up on 8 months of Miss Star Wars, but let's talk about stuff that's happened in the last week. First things first, my goodness, Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian Season 2, the finale episode. That's right, 45 minutes dedicated just to the last episode of Season 2 of The Mandalorian. And honestly, they could have done a whole docuseries on this last episode. There was so much to dive into, but we ended up getting 44 minutes of basically just the last 10, when Luke Skywalker shows up. And it's not just some guy playing Luke Skywalker, although there is Matt. We met Matt. He's a double, but it was actually Mark Hamill. Clean-shaven Mark Hamill. Brushed to the side hair Mark Hamill. And we got a great insight. First things first, I don't know what looks better. I don't know if The Mandalorian looks great. I think the behind-the-scenes documentary looks even better than The Mandalorian. It's so well done, and it's, from their perspective. So there's no tracking in case you've never seen one of these specials before. But it's all from Dave, and it's all from Jon Favreau. And we got a little Peyton Reed in there. And so you're just learning about everyone's passion for Star Wars at a deeper level. And we got to explore some incredible themes. Star Wars is, yes, it's lightsabers and ships and the Force and rebels versus the Empire. But at its core, and what this special dives into so well, is it's about the relationships. And so that's, to me, so exciting, is when you get into this series and you're learning about the story behind John coming up with Mark Hamill coming back as Luke Skywalker. And before that, just how can we bring back Luke Skywalker? Loved hearing Dave's collaboration and his excitement about bringing Luke back, but then how he was able to flip it back on Jon Favreau and be like, well, if we bring in Luke, we're going to bring in R2. And it's interesting between when you see Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau in this episode talking, because there's definitely a professional relationship. And I think to a point, there's probably a friendship, but there's these moments that we've seen, and it's through all the Disney Gallery. It's stuff you see online, but they swap back and forth between master and apprentice. And so there's these parts where John's talking about seeing Dave's joy, but then Dave's seeing John's joy in all of this. And I thought that was really enjoyable to see how that, I don't know if it's a bromance, but that relationship really flourish as they work to tell these stories. That to me was really enjoyable. And, John kind of elaborates, I guess they both did, but they talk about the joy of Star Wars. And maybe that's, a moment in the movie, or it's a relationship that they have with a person that they share it with. And they talk about how that's why it's a generational story, that Star Wars resonates with young and older, is because of that bond. And that hit home with me. Like I just explained, I lost my dad, and my God, we watch Star Wars all the time. And so I thought I connected to that immensely. There was a lot of laughter. There was a lot of fascinating insight. I think something that surprised me was, my goodness, 10 minutes on deepfake. Maybe not that much, but they went through the different types of technology that they considered to allow Mark Hamill to be Luke Skywalker in this scene. And it made me chuckle at first, because if you'll remember when this came out, when the finale came out, everyone was, trying to do a deep fake and try and prove that they could do it better than how Luke looked in the episode. But as John explained, they just found that they could do it better with a different method. And I kind of thought it was like a good, FU to the trolls, because there were a lot of man babies online crying that a deep fake would look better. When you learn the process of how they're ingesting, all this video, and they're trying to get Mark's likeness, I found the whole thing incredibly interesting. And I could have watched 42 minutes just on that. Really fascinating stuff. I don't know if people interpreted that conversation the way I did. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about the tribute to Kathleen Kennedy. And I'm being facetious, and I'm not trying to be rude when I say this, but basically, here's what John said. Kathy Kennedy, we brought in very early on this conversation, referring to bringing Luke Skywalker back on screen. Kathy, first and foremost, is a great producer, and producers figure ways to make things happen that are creatively exciting to the storytellers. Not only does she understand how to create an environment where we can have all the tools that we need to explore and experiment and be creative, but also knows what it takes to incubate ideas and understands the significance of when you do it right, what they can represent. And I think it's interesting that those words were chosen because when I reflect on this episode and all of the insight that they were able to provide, I'm really thinking about they went out of their way really to credit Kathleen as a great producer. And Jon at one point goes a little bit further, talking about how there's like pride in the fandom, how people feel like these stories are being told right, and the Star Wars is being treated with respect. And this was the dialogue that he was having to kind of set up this ode to Kathleen Kennedy. There are a lot of people that are hell-bent in believing that Kathleen Kennedy is the worst thing to happen for Star Wars. I can't agree with that. Do I agree with every decision regarding Star Wars since the Disney buyout? No. But when do you ever agree with everything? I'm sure people who are passionate about the MCU could find something to gripe about. People aren't happy. 54 million people have watched this No Way Home trailer already, and there's people upset about something with Doctor Strange, and he's acting weird. Whatever, they're going to still get your money and my money too. I just think that there is an immense sense of pride with this team producing this series. And it seems like they're very aware that they've locked onto something that we're all invested in. We love the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. The anticipation, I think, is very high for the Book of Boba Fett that drops this December. I think there is a lot of anticipation to see, okay, what does a spinoff look like? Does it maintain that same level? The production, I would say, like the dialogue, it sounds like Star Wars. It looks like Star Wars. The music, all these things. Can they do this? Can they spin off successfully? Because we know that the plan ultimately is we're getting that Ahsoka series. And there's also a couple other series that may or may not happen. We don't want to get into that right now. People don't work for Star Wars right now. It's all good. It's all fine. We're happy. We're in a good place. Grieving, it's a process. And we're moving forward with the grieving process. At least that's what I took away from Billy Crystal in 2004 is analyze that. All right. How's the live chat looking? I'm going to dive in here and see what everyone is talking about. Matthew, the Kathleen Kennedy praise was a big FU to the trolls. That would seem like it was the case. And I don't think that anyone with Lucasfilm, Disney, it's not about directing anything towards the trolls, but it's reiterating where credit is due. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni get a lot of this credit. I can tell you, working in broadcast news, the producer doesn't get nearly enough credit when a newscast goes well or when breaking news is covered well. And so, and also Kathleen Kennedy's in charge. So there's no harm in getting a little job security if you pay it forward. Jesse, fundamentally, Star Wars should deliver a good feeling and uplifting message. Jesse, that's a great quote that you just pulled from Dave Filoni. And I think that's really something to focus on. And that kind of goes to a larger point about the joy of Star Wars. And it's maybe a moment in the movie like we talked about, or its relationship, but it should make you feel good. And I loved seeing the footage of the crew so excited to see Luke Skywalker on set. And the fact that the crew was so small because they were simultaneously shooting another episode. And so it's just this core group, and they were so scared that it would leak out that they were using Plo Koon as a cover-up, which I think is funny. Dave explained it how, they use Plo Koon because, he's his favorite Jedi and fans know that. And so people would believe it. But we all know that Plo Koon Plo Koon died at the end of Revenge of the Sith. And so that wouldn't be possible. So we would know that something was afoot, Dave. Your logic fails you. But that's okay. It's really quite all right. I think, they could have told us anything. I put out a poll that we'll get to in a little bit, but I was like, what's the one Jedi that could have rolled up at the end of Mandalorian season 2 and been as well received or more than Luke Skywalker? And I mentioned Ahsoka Tano, thinking like, that would be another Jedi that I would imagine, because she is Dave Filoni's child, love child, and everyone shot me down. They're like, that would be horrendous. She's already getting a series. That's good enough. All right. The hostility. I could watch Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau talking Star Wars for 12 hours. They could do a 15 episode season. I would watch every bit of it. It's intriguing. It's cool seeing Star Wars, how it's made. I think there was so much emphasis on how season 1 was made, because this 360 technology that they're now using, that it's now being used with Marvel products as well. And in season 2, well, what's the next big thing that's going to advance how Star Wars is told? And we got a little insight into that in this episode. It was really cool. You just saw it flash up on your screen, but I liked how Dave Filoni did the drawing of R2 tilting over to meet Grogu. I thought that was a charming moment. And it's a moment that I remember watching, like in the moment, watching the finale and feeling a little emotional about. There's something about, I don't know, the generation, the old generation, the new generation acknowledging each other. I don't know. I thought it was all very cool. I very much enjoyed it. I want to know what you think. Is the Disney Gallery something that you want to see continue because of the insight that it allows us to have from these creators? I want to know what you think. Comment down below. If you're watching live, let me know in the live chat. You can always tweet us at BTBD Star Wars. Really a lot of fun. Diving back in the live chat because I want to see what everyone's talking about. Matthew says the haters and trolls need to do some research and they will see how many of the great 80s movies Kathleen Kennedy was involved in. That's true. And also, I think that this is important. This is an accountability moment for me. I got to hold true to this. I promised moving forward that I'm not going to worry about the trolls or Twitter drama or stuff in the fandom, because I think it's all very stupid. And I think it cheapens everything. It makes us unhappy. So let's just not worry about them. My encouraging, this is what I did. I blocked 10 people today. It was awesome because they were tweeting about this stuff. And I said, I don't care. So goodbye. We're only going to talk Star Wars, things happening, things we love. We can be critical of Star Wars all we want, but I don't care about this online social media mumbo jumbo. It's just not fun. It's just not fun. Scotty J-Ro comments, what did you think of seeing an older Luke? I thought it was incredible to see Mark Hamill, present day, in those Return of the Jedi robes. It was chilling. It was emotional. It was really exciting because we got a glimpse of that at the very end of The Last Jedi, right? He walks out there in his robes, and of course it's a projection, but you're seeing Jedi Master Luke Skywalker pulling off some really cool moves, wielding a blue lightsaber. I'm into it. But when you're seeing on set Mark Hamill in those robes and knowing that this is kind of what Mark Hamill always wanted, it's well documented. He wanted the opportunity to tell that story of what came after Return of the Jedi. And he says it himself. You watch New Hope, you watch Empire and Return, and you see this farm boy become a learner and then a Jedi Knight, and then the story ends. Well, what does Luke Skywalker do? What is he like at his full strength? Now, we've looked back. We've gone to the sequel trilogy in The Last Jedi and in The Rise of Skywalker. We've been able to look back. We've been able to see the sins of Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master. But what about Jedi Master Luke Skywalker when he was pure? He's just redeemed his father. The Empire is splintered. He is trying to scour the galaxy, trying to find these Force-sensitive youth to try and assemble a new Jedi Order. Try and do it a different way, and then try and lead to a brighter day for the galaxy. And we got that. He gets that. And so, yeah, you see him walking down the hallways. He's holding the lightsaber, and what was really fascinating too is this notion of, even though that Luke as a Jedi is way up here and other Jedi are down here, he doesn't have the training saber-wise to be able to do really outlandish moves in that hallway. And so they talk about how every move is very deliberate, but how every move is just a little ahead, of his opponent. And I love that. And I also thought that was a really nice, I want to say lean, but that's not the right, but I think that's a really nice foreshadowing of the style of lightsaber use that we get in this sequel trilogy. Because one of the things that I complained about with the sequels is you don't get that, you don't get any finesse. It's all very aggressive, but it makes sense with how Rey was raised, and eventually Luke training Rey. He wouldn't be the greatest swordsman in the world if he went head to head with Ahsoka. Ahsoka would whoop his butt. I mean, I'm assuming. Maybe I'm wrong. If someone wants to do like some kind of like computer generated, demo, I mean, I'll watch that. I mean, I think that'd be great. But I think I agree. Like he's not the best swordsman, but he has the ability to predict the next move of his opponent so well that he's able to get through with these very specific, very direct moves. It looked incredible. I still think of that moment where he's in the hallway and he slides. He like glides on the floor. He's like sliding into home plate and gets up and slide. It's just so well done. So well done. Big fan of an older Mark Hamill returning as Luke Skywalker. Really good stuff. Next topic here on Beyond the Blast Doors, and we're just cruising here on a Wednesday night. Really appreciative that you're allowing this Wednesday night to be shared between you and I. I know you have a lot of options, but we're going to talk Star Wars. And we get to talk Star Wars comics. Now, this is pretty cool. It just comes out. Excuse me, getting choked up here. But it's for good reason. Exciting news in the comic book world. Marvel will be releasing Star Wars Crimson Reign this fall. I think IGN has the official drop on this. They had the exclusive report on this. And this is really fascinating because this news is on the heels of the War of the Bounty Hunters event, which showcased how Boba Fett was trying to take Han Solo and Carbonite from the end of Empire to Jabba's palace. And the reason why this is a big deal is Qi'ra shows up in this arc. But what we're learning now is Crimson Reign is going to be Qi'ra front and center. And not only is it going to be Qi'ra, but it's also going to have the Knights of Ren. And keeping in mind, this is all happening post Empire Strikes Back. Charles Soule came out with a great quote. He said, the moment that I started writing Star Wars stories, I wanted to be able to tell the stories in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Such a rich, vast place in that original Star Wars timeline that's not explored. We rarely dabble there. Now, things are changing, and Charles is adding a lot to that era. It's very fascinating. This is going to be a 5-issue series with Charles Soule writing, joined with Steve Cummings. And I just gave you that quote about Charles Soule being passionate about writing in between episodes 5 and 6. He says he has a trilogy of stories with Qi'ra planned. So you have the War of the Bounty Hunters. You now have Crimson Reign coming out this fall. I would suspect that the third of this trilogy of comics would come out in the spring, 2022. That is my assumption. Late spring, early summer. That would be my thoughts here. I think it's fascinating because it immediately, once people want to go with, okay, if Qi'ra is getting so much love in the comics, it means one of two things, right? Either this character is so valuable to the story, and clearly she is a big player in this Skywalker saga era, that this is setting up the fact that she can return to the screen. We're putting her in the comics. We're going to see how it sells, and we'll see how fans respond. But this can only help the character return to the screen. Of course, a lot of people want to see some kind of continuation to Solo, a Star Wars story. Other people are viewing this as, you know what? Any kind of sequel to Solo is unlikely, and it's probably more likely that we can continue Qi'ra's story in the comics. Okay. Both have validity, I would think. I'm someone who wants to see that Solo sequel happen. And I feel like the movie Solo would have been way better as like a 4 or 5, issue, or not issue, but episodic adventure on Disney Plus. I think that Solo could have been really successful as like the first thing to drop on Disney Plus for Star Wars. Also keeping in mind that I think that the obvious story to tell on screen with Qi'ra would be that continuation from Solo, because what is she going to do with Maul? I mean, what possibly could those those characters do together? Maul ruling Crimson Dawn, basically. And you get some tidbits through, the War of the Bounty Hunters, and some indication. There's a line in there where Qi'ra says something about, I know how to handle a Sith Lord. I think she's dueling Darth Vader. She's like, if it's a Sith Lord I need to deal with, I know how to do that. And I'm like, well, that's clearly a throwback to Maul. But what does that mean? What does that mean? And so I think that story best served live action. But I don't think there's any harm in using any character in the comics. I mean, Boba Fett, didn't he start out in like a cartoon and a comic or something, and then he blew up in Empire, 2.5 minutes of screen time, and now he's a fan favorite. I mean, for the love of God, I bought a Slave One. I got the Slave One. Isn't it nice? It's a beautiful ship. I did a Lego build recently, and let me tell you, this will last longer than my second camera battery. I'll tell you that much. But for you to fully appreciate that inside joke, you'll have to watch my 4.5-hour live build that was over Saturday night. Jesse, Buck, and Steve Hyman joining me for that. That was a lot of fun. 2 views of where Qi'ra's future is heading. And honestly, I think the best policy is don't worry about it. Buy the comics. They're going to be great. This is literally one of the A teams in the comics world right now. I still think Claudia Gray is A team for writing novels, Star Wars novels. But Charles Soule is rocking the comic game. I will say this. The involvement of Knights of Ren sparks me as a curveball. The last time Charles Soule used the Knights of Ren, it was in the Rise of Kylo Ren 5-issue comic book series, which there were elements that I like, but then there were also elements mainly with the Knights of Ren that I didn't care for. The rotating leader didn't really do much for me. And I think that I'm just really bitter, to be just fully transparent with you. The Knights of Ren could have done so much on screen and misused, underused, underappreciated, underutilized, whatever you want to say. And so to see them in comic book form just kind of is lackluster, but it will be interesting to see, what are the Knights of Ren doing in this time period? And, I still wish that they were the crowd that was at the beginning of the Aftermath trilogy that Chuck Wendig did, these like Sith worshippers kind of going around the galaxy and collecting the Sith artifacts. I wish that was them. It's not. I'm getting over it. I have to get over it. I do want to show real quick, though. I do want to show the covers because I thought that these were worth pulling up. These are gorgeous. And something that I'm looking forward to doing in the near future is getting back to showing like my comic book collection. I love comic books, and these covers are exceptional. You have the main cover over here on the right, and I'm actually going to just pull that full so that way it stops flashing at us because, my gosh, that's obnoxious. Or it's just going to keep flashing, and that's quite all right. Welcome to Beyond the Blast Doors Live, where everything kind of goes as planned. We have these 3 covers. I think my favorite one is the far right. It's the Vader cover. It's beautiful. It's sexy. And I will get 2. You know why? Because you get one to put in that Mylar with the quarter-inch halfback. That's redundant. But the halfback cardboard. And then you get the second one to fiddle through and fiddle open. But very excited for that. And again, comes out this fall. I'm very curious to see what your reaction is. What do you think right now? Everyone in the live chat, I want to know right now, real quick, what are your thoughts on Qi'ra helming a trilogy of Star Wars comic events penned by Charles Soule? Is this something that's motivating you to get these comics? I know that, for example, Scotty's in the live chat, not a big comic book guy. It's got to be a really great story to get his attention, to lock him in. I'm very curious to see what everyone's saying. Going through here real quick, Podcast The Will says, yes, Disney Gallery for everything. I already answered that question from Scotty. Podcast Wills again says, curious to know what you think this comic series means for the prospects of Make Solo 2 Happen campaign. I pretty much already touched on that, right? So I want that to happen. I don't think that this comic book series should at all be used as an indication of where the storytelling group, Lucasfilm, Disney, prioritizes the Qi'ra character. The biggest impediment for the character and really any kind of Solo sequel is the fact that the box office sucked. And we know why it was terrible. It wasn't
It was not because it was a bad movie. Is it the greatest Star Wars story of all time, or is it a top 10 film of cinematic history? No, it's not. It's a pretty good Star Wars movie. The issue is marketing. It's to a larger issue, which is when you have a company like Disney owning so many large franchises, at some point, one of them will be lesser valued than the other. And so Star Wars and Marvel were kind of taking turns, right, every other year in a way. But then MCU started putting out movies every year, right? Infinity War, and it was evident when you went to any box store, you went to Target, Walmart, wherever you go, the end caps were Marvel, MCU, Infinity War, and you didn't see Solo anywhere. It was clear that Disney with marketing was putting the emphasis on Infinity War and not Solo. And that's why Solo makes like $300 million and it was a bust. You have the Lord and Miller drama for directing. You get Ron Howard in there, which I thought he did a great job. I'd like to see him do a sequel and be able to tell this story with Maul and Qi'ra. But I just think that Solo gets a lot of crap that it doesn't deserve. I think it's a fun movie. And I think it has a lot of great moments. And I think that it definitely feels like you're in the Star Wars world. I love that opening sequence, especially that chase. I'm a fan. And I just think that it's going to take a lot for Disney and Lucasfilm to be convinced to do something major with those characters again, because they're going to want to see a big return on that investment. We know that originally Alden Ehrenreich was contracted for 3 films. Well, that contract isn't being fulfilled right now. He's got one movie. He's got one movie that grossed $300 million in the theater. So a little bit of a letdown. Ben Bamboo couldn't care less about that character doing anything. I guess talking about Qi'ra, I think the character is fascinating. Definitely when you see that initial relationship explored in Solo. I also like the idea of Qi'ra meeting Leia. That's going to happen. That happens in the comic books. That's going to happen. I believe it's Star Wars 18. It comes out in October. So when we're talking about comics ahead, that is something to be looking out for. But I think that Qi'ra is interesting because we met Han in A New Hope as this guy who was only out for himself, and he was willing to play the game, and he took a lot of risks, and he was, a badass. And, he actually picked a better path for himself compared to the girl that he fell in love with, because she kind of rises through the ranks here of Crimson Dawn. I'm a fan. I don't think that I'm hiding that from you. I think it's pretty evident how I feel. A lot of great comments in the live chat. Appreciate you being here again. Beyond the Blast Doors Live, episode 115 here on Wednesday, August 25th, 2021. So glad to be with you. We're just cruising along here. I'm having a great time. Like I'm very happy. I want you to be happy. I want you to be having a good time. And, I'm not going to put too much stress on it. I don't want to put too much stress on me, because that's when things go awry. You know what's perfect? The Star Wars Visions trailer. So this dropped last week. I'm just now able to talk about it, but this was awesome. We got an English dub of the trailer, and it's this upcoming anthology series from Lucasfilm. And it's told through the style of Japanese anime. And there's several different kinds, which really excites me. I'm a real big fan of what they're doing here. And honestly, there were moments when I was watching this and I thought to myself, it's like adult Avatar, like Avatar: The Last Airbender. It felt so good. Seeing the different styles, the samurai style. I mean, this is something that I'm sure that George Lucas, when he saw for the first time, he absolutely lost his mind. It's gorgeous. The black and white scaling here, the old samurai coming out of the hut. You're seeing classic Star Wars imagery. You're seeing stories that they're not canon. They're just fun stories told in that world, in that galaxy. And I'm really intrigued by this shot. How he's using the Force just to hold the lightsaber blade. So cool. Ominous shot of the Star Destroyer. Absolutely love it. The different stylings are really fascinating. And, also that's a Slave One. And I don't know who's showing up in that Slave One, but there's only one Slave One, right? I'm really excited for these stories. As someone who doesn't know a whole lot about anime, I'm really intrigued. My friends in high school were big Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is like freaky stuff. There's like tentacles and it's weird stuff. Watch Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, One Piece was something that I watched a lot in high school, and I felt like there was some elements here that I could connect to the time that I spent watching One Piece. There's a lot of arms, a lot of lightsabers, a lot of electricity. This is cool. There's like kyber whips around this kid's lightsaber. I mean, it's really just fascinating, and it's great to see there's a pretty respectable amount of interest in this. So again, this is available both the original Japanese translated to English, and I think it gives a really cool look at the tones and the visuals of the series. There's 7 Japanese anime studios collaborating on this project, and of course, the series launches on Disney Plus on September 22nd. So that's something to definitely check out when it drops, because it'll be a lot of fun. Excited to see what people's reaction is to this series. We'll check the live chat in just a couple of minutes. I mentioned the slave one. It's because Boba Fett is involved. We know that the English dub cast does include, Tamara Morrison as Boba Fett. But we get the Duel, Tatooine Rhapsody, the Twins, the Village Brigade, or rather the Village Bride, I should say, the Ninth Jedi, T0B1, the Elder, Lap Ocho, and Akakuri. I didn't get that one right, but George Takei is voicing a character in it, so that's pretty cool. The Duel has Brian T, Lucy Liu in there. Tatooine Rhapsody has Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Bobby Monahan is in there. Mark Thompson, who is known for his work on the audiobooks for Star Wars. It's pretty impressive seeing the list of actors and actresses that are lending their voices to this project. And of course, you can see that for yourself. Just head over to starwars.com for that. And let's go ahead and see what people are saying in the live chat right now. Ben says, I love that it's anime and not canon. It's the perfect platform to do George's version of the sequels on. I just, that's never going to happen. I just don't want you to tease yourself like that. It would be cruel for you to do that. I don't think that is the purpose of this. I think that there is so much of the Japanese culture and tradition embedded in Star Wars that you're kind of reverse engineering in a way to tell stories like this in animation, in that style of anime. I think it's going to be really fascinating to see the kinds of stories that are told here. And what kind of stories can you tell when there's no rules? I think that's very interesting. And we've mentioned that there are characters here, and there's voice actors that do play canon roles. And so bending our understanding of characters or how the galaxy works or how maybe the Force works, I think it's all very fascinating. And it's what it does allow. I'll tell you this, Ben. What I think this does allow is it's the perfect thing to put on Disney Plus. You're not going to put this in the movie theaters. You're not going to spend the money to do this, as a YouTube short. Disney Plus is the perfect place to get a little experimental with your Star Wars. I mean, why not? I think this is going to be very popular. I think what's also very popular is when you look at the Star Wars novelizations and how they're converted to anime, manga, books, I should say. Those always sell out. Very fascinating to see the reaction here. September 22nd, mark it down. You're going to want to be there. It's going to be fantastic. Is everyone having fun? If you're having a good time on Beyond the Blasterverse Live, I want, real quick, put a hell yeah in the live chat. Also, do me a favor, real quick. Take this episode, hit that share button on your social media, and invite your friends to come in and join the Star Wars conversation. Would love for everyone to join us. As I reach out a frame so I can get my water. When you're talking incessantly by yourself for 40 minutes, this isn't going to happen. That is refreshing. I would tell you that I think whiskey, surprisingly, is better for the throat. But I feel like I shouldn't drink whiskey unless I'm with Pete Fletcher. So I guess I have to have Pete on the show soon so I can legitimize having whiskey again. It's also a Wednesday, and I have to wake up early tomorrow, and I don't want to have a hangover. And it's also, I'm a professional. I don't have to drink to have fun. I have a good time. Matthew, Podcast The Wills, Ben, thank you so much for all that. We got 7 people watching live. You know what? There could be no one watching live. I could be doing the show right now, and I'd be happy talking to myself. Because I feel really good about this, and it is a reboot. This is the Return of the Jedi era for Beyond the Blast Doors Live. Been gone, like I said. I did a couple episodes here and there, but overall, I really was kind of MIA for the last 8 months or so, and that's okay. I made my family the priority, and that's what you got to do. I think that it's really good to have goals, but goals can be tied for priorities, if that makes sense. And so had some goals that I had with this show and with the network. And, maybe it didn't go according to plan. I had life happen. We all had life happen. Oh my gosh, that is so loud. Did you guys hear that? My gosh. I just had something fire off in my ears. That was exceptional. But what I was saying was, it was natural, right? The pandemic, we're trying to get the pandemic to end. There's some things getting in the way, of course, of that. We're not doing politics on this show. But, honestly, our health isn't political. You should get a vaccine because science is great. But, everyone's starting to get their own responsibilities again. And it's sometimes I think it was going to be easier for everyone to do their own show on their own and not feel like they had to be, tethered to another show. And so I respect it. And if you're looking over at Bomb Badcast, Scotty and Jerry are doing stuff right now. Wild stuff. They got 3 shows a week now, and they're doing really cool stuff. Hollow Chronicles, they've got a new setup. They're still doing their great show on collectibles around the galaxy. I just put this out there yesterday on Twitter, but Pete started to do this Disturbance in the Force thing where it's like a 5-minute top of the hour radio style news headlines. So he's just telling you things that are happening, but he's not elaborating on it. I think it's super effective. I think it's really great. And I think it's exactly what it needs to be. And that's great because Pete doesn't have to worry about these 10,000 things he wants to do for the network. He can just focus on his show, and that's bringing him joy. And I think that's great. And there's no doubt in my mind that we'll get everybody together for something. I would love to see Potathon still happen as our group leading that. I think that would be great. A holiday toy drive, would love to see us do that again. That would be great. We're friends. And honestly, they were the best friends I had during this whole run because they always checked on me. And whenever I said sorry for not being around, they yelled at me for saying sorry. And they just said, go focus on your dad. And I think that's what made it probably, honestly, I don't know if you can ever handle the loss of a loved one well, but I think I handled it well because the people in my life I know are good because they told me just to focus on that. I got to spend so much time with dad up to the end. And I'm at peace, and that feels good. And that feels really good. So let's get in a better mood now and talk Star Wars because that's why we're all here. We're here to feel good. And let me tell you about a day that I felt really good. I finally went to Galaxy's Edge in Orlando, and it was an absolute blast. It was incredible to walk into that space. And when you walk into Galaxy's Edge, for anyone who hasn't been there, when you walk into Galaxy's Edge and maybe you're at the Falcon or you're outside the hut to build your lightsaber, like you look up, you look around in a 365 and you can't see anywhere else in the park. It is the coolest thing. You are literally, you're in Star Wars. And it was so authentic. We've seen the video. We've commented on the promotional video about how real it looks. And, we watched those behind the scene things together, on previous episodes. And it all looked really impressive. You got to see it in person. I mean, it's like, I just laughed. I honestly think that's something that took me away from it. And it's fine. But they played the music from the movies in the park. And I don't even know if you need that. I think just the sounds of ships taking on and off and the background chatter, it worked out. But yeah, it was fascinating. I got to do Smuggler's Run. I did not get to go on Rise of Resistance. I missed both lotteries. And I was heartbroken at one point. And I was like, man, this is like why I'm here, to go on this one ride. And then I thought to myself, well, actually, you're going to really cheapen this experience if you just bank the whole experience on that one ride. I was with my wife, her sister, and mom. And they're not nearly as big a Star Wars fans as I am. But we all had a really good time. And it was really cool to share that with them. And yeah, I had another moment. It's like, man, I wish Dad could see this. I wish Dad was here. He would absolutely love this. And it's the honest truth. But we got to do Smuggler's Run. We waited almost 2 hours in line for a 7-minute ride, maybe. But it was awesome. I was a pilot. Mandy, my wife, was co-pilot. Her mom and sister are gunners. We got these 2 engineers. And I'd never been on a ride like it before. I literally felt like I rode the actual Millennium Falcon. I think we were in space, or not in space, but we were actually flying around in that cavern, stealing the cargo. It was so fantastic. I at times did feel like a little motion sick, but it was so cool. I mean, I just think of like the Scooby-Doo ride at Six Flags. And I think of like the Buzz Lightyear ride. I don't know. Like those were I think of rides. And this is just, it's out of this world. I mean, as cliche as that sounds, this ride, I was flying the Millennium Falcon. It was incredible. Got to have some food. Had a Ronto wrap, which I wanted to try. It was okay. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was. For some reason, I thought it was more of a gyro, but it wasn't. But it was still fine. The Gold Squadron Lager, I would not get it again. It was like citrusy. And I do have photos that I want to pull up of my ride. And I'm going to get rid of 2 of these because I don't want the video to play. But I think you'll be able to get the sense of the scale of this by just seeing the photos. Keeping in mind, we already heard enough of Hondo Anaka in the headlines here. Why is this not allowing me to go full screen? There we go. All right, here we go. So here's me, my Ronto wrap, and my Gold Swan lager. Mandy on the far right, her sister Alyssa there in the middle. We're there in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, waiting outside of Smuggler's Run. And yeah, again, I could not get used to the size of the Falcon. I mean, they did not hold back on building that Falcon. I felt like Han Solo underneath that thing in A New Hope. I mean, I wish I could have touched it. But yeah, I mean, just the perspectives of, and a great example of, you look anywhere. Yeah, I found a blast door. You look anywhere in the park, and you really can't see, and like you just think you're on the planet Abatu. You cannot see any sight of reality in any direction. I mean, look at that. The spires, super cool. And I tried to keep the sky in the shot because I wanted you to see this was awesome. Walking through here, all the little shops I thought was really cool. Yeah, I mean, that's my face. I mean, I'm outside the freaking Falcon. I was so happy. And I remember the engineers talking about, or the Imagineers talking about how they built to a certain height to where it would feel immersive, Batu. It was awesome. Have you been to Galaxy's Edge? If you have, and you're watching the live chat, let me know. I would love to hear about your experience. I love that. Very satisfying. I did buy an $8 Diet Coke. I'll go full here. So I got the Coke bottle. Looks like a thermal detonator, I guess, or a bomb of some sort. But it's cool. It's starting to actually corrode already inside. So I don't know how much longer. Actually, I think that's actually the design of the wrapper. So I don't know if I'm going to hold on to that much longer or not. But I do also have this, which I'm pretty excited about. I got my official game of Sabacc. This is pretty cool. One of the things I'll say about Galaxy's Edge, and I was saying this before I even went, is that you have to be prepared to spend $1,000 at the park for you to have the full experience. It is $200 just to sign up for building your lightsaber, because that's a hilt. It's an extra $50 for the blade. And then, you had to buy a case for it, I believe. I don't think the case comes with it. You can build your own astromech droid. You can buy your Jedi robes. They're very authentic, and you pay the price for them. Sabak is $16 at Galaxy's Edge, and that's what I got. And very happy with picking up the game. I've got some buddies who want to learn it with me, and I think it's fun because I have that from Galaxy's Edge, and I'm going to be able to share that with friends. And it all goes back to the same thing. I've got a lot of really positive memories. I'm not going to let not getting on Rise of Skywalker or Rise of Resistance get me down, but I will say this. I'm not motivated to go back. I've done it, and I think that if I had a group of buddies who wanted to go to and spend the money and go to Hollywood Studios and try and get on the ride, I would go. I don't know how inclined I'm going to be to go for several years. And I'm not saying that to be critical, but when you go there, there's 2 rides. You can have lunch. There's a bunch of gift shops. You can do Galaxy's Edge in an afternoon. And seriously, if you get the lottery for Rise of Resistance, you do that game. So you do that ride. Okay. Then let's say I would budget 2 hours for waiting in line and then actually doing Smuggler's Run. So you're probably up to like 2.5 hours. Well, 2.5, 2:45 at that moment. You're going to build your lightsaber. That's about 25 minutes, I'm told. So that's now you're at around 3:10. Okay. You're going to have lunch, depending on how fast you eat, or if you want to sit there and visit, if it's a nice day. It rained on us. So now you're up to like 3.5 to 4. Okay. Unless you just want to sit there and listen to the John Williams soundtrack, I mean, you're really just spending about 4.5 hours there at the absolute most in one day. And all those things that I named for you, I mean, also you could go build your own droid, all those activities, you're spending close to $1,000. And keep in mind, that's just for you. If you're a parent and you're taking 1, 2, 3, or 4 kids to this thing, you're shelling out a lot of money. But if you're willing to shell out that money, you're probably also willing to spend the $5 or $7 grand it is to stay at this immersive hotel that's going to be in Orlando, which also I think, okay, it's cool. And would I do it? Absolutely. But I'm not paying $5 to $7 grand for it. I'm just saying this. If it's so immersive, I will be furious for you if you go on this. If I find out that it's like 3 a.m. and you're under attack by the Empire, and they wake everybody up at 3 a.m. to get to their stations to fight the Empire, like that would be horrendous. I would hope for $5 to $7 grand. My sleep will not be disturbed. But that's just me. What do you think about Galaxy's Edge? What do you think about that immersive hotel experience? You let me know down in the comments below, and we'll share those. This is good. I'm having a blast. I hope you are too. For not having done a show in so long, really pleased with everything. Got the kinks out. Really like my headlines. I'm not even trying to be braggadocious about that. I just really enjoyed my headlines, trying to up the production there a little bit more, and to allow for a clean start to the show. For someone who's been around Beyond the Blast Doors live for some time, you'll know that sometimes technology doesn't work in the favor. I am one person operating this entire this effort, this production. And honestly, sometimes mistakes are made. But it's 9:53 Central, and we've gone through all our topics, so I'm going to throw one more in here just for laughs. And then we'll get on out of here. If you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And at the end of the stream, if you can drop me a comment, tell me what you thought about the show or your favorite moment, or maybe there's something we didn't talk about that you want us to talk about on the next episode. Be sure to let me know. But closing things out, I want to talk about HASLAB here. I don't know why I'm putting myself on thumbnails. I think it's just because I'm trying to communicate it's a guy talking Star Wars. I realized in this moment that I failed, and I'm not wearing a shirt and tie. But I was in the cornfield today reporting on crop damage, and I just did not feel like getting into a shirt and tie. What am I talking about? Well, right now we're talking about HASLAB. The next HASLAB project has been announced, and it's going to be the RANCOR if things work out. So they're talking about the 6-inch scale line could add Jabba the Hutt's fearsome pet, okay, if goals are reached. And I think it's interesting. Hollow Chronicles was talking about this yesterday, and if you haven't already, check out their episode. I really enjoyed the conversation about it. This thing is going to have to be huge for people to drop money. And you're only looking at things past. The last HasLab project was the Razor Crest. Several hundreds of dollars. I think it's like just north of $300. And before that, you had Jabba Sailing Barge. I was surprised because I never thought the HasLab projects would go to creatures. I thought they were always going to do ships. And maybe I'm a fool for having that kind of assumption. It wouldn't be the first time that I've operated under an assumption. I can promise you that. But I am curious about what this could look like. What does the Rancor have to be in order for someone to want to purchase it? There's no 2 scale of the 6-inch. If I put a 6-inch Luke Skywalker right here in front of you, this is a 3/4 inch Luke Skywalker. But pretend this is 6 inches, and I put Luke right there, okay? And to be scale, I don't know what that would have to look like. I mean, you're talking about a 4.5 feet tall, 5 feet tall, 6 feet tall. I mean, I have no idea. I still can't even process how big this Razor Crest is that we're going to have to assemble here in a few months. It's going to be insane. There's no image on it, and I can read what StarWars.com has. There's a quote in here from Michael Balog. It says, following the success of the previous 2 HasLab campaigns for Star Wars The Vintage Collection, our team is so thrilled to offer fans the first ever HasLab project from the Black Series, the Rancor. Hasbro's vice president for the Star Wars brand is Michael Balog. Okay. We hope fans of the Star Wars series line are prepared for this iconic creature to join their 6-inch scale collections. And of course, I mentioned 2018 HasLab launched the Jabba Sailing Barge, which had just under 10,000 backers. And then in 2020, HasLab added the Razor Crest for the Mandalorian, and that generated enough backers for production in just over a day. It was really cool to witness that. And of course, there's tiers. And I don't know. It's hard for me to be excited about the Rancor. If I'm just being completely honest with you, I would have much rather have seen the Wampa. And I already had, and I'm only this prepared because I watched the Hollow Chronicles talk about this. Very simple with the Wampa. Get the Wampa. Tier 1 is Luke, bloodied with his lightsaber. Okay. Tier 2 is a Tauntaun that you can pack the Luke in. And then the third tier is Han Solo with his communication device. And so that would be cool. And you could have a big Wampa, and you could have those, and that would be nice. With the Rancor, I'm curious what they're going to offer. My mind would go to Luke with a bone, right? The slave girl, and then the a Gamorrean guard that he eats. Or maybe it's the guy that is his like owner or whatever. If it was explored in like a comic or something. I know his name, but I can't remember. You ever have that? Like, you know something important, but you just can't remember it at the time? I'm really interested in seeing how this works. The Star Wars article also says, although bested by the Jedi in Star Wars Return of the Jedi this morning, Hasbro announces plans to bring the Sharp-Toothed Beast into the 6-inch scale Star Wars Black Series line if the brand's next HasLab crowdfunded campaign reaches its target for production. I mean, I would say, because we've already recapped it, the success of the Sailing Barge and the Razor Crest, it's going to get backed. And part of this, too, is people will back it because they will be curious to see what other incentives come down the line. You're getting a full crew, basically, with the Razor Crest at this point. I'm freaking excited about it. I think it's going to be cool. I don't know if I'll put my money behind it, and I'll be I did not put my money behind the Razor Crest. Someone is giving that to me as a gift, and I'm going to have to, I don't know, I'm probably going to have to fly out to Washington to make it up to them. That's probably how that's going to work. But I don't know. Very curious to see how you react. What do you think about the HasLab Rancor? Is that a collectible that excites you? Do collectibles excite you? Or are you more, do you like the traditional 6-inch? Or I guess, should I say, do you like the more traditional 3/4 inch figure? I don't find myself wanting to get new figures. I find myself wanting to go find those figures that I used to have when I was a kid and get them because I broke them as a kid and I didn't appreciate gifts from my family. That spiraled down. Yeah, but I want to know what you guys think. Live chat. Matthew, that Rancor better be 3.5 feet tall to get my attention. HASLAB should get to do a Millennium Falcon. And it would be a mic drop. What's the internal temperature of a Tauntaun? Lukewarm. Good joke. I think the Falcon would be interesting. It would be, I mean, it's going to be as large or larger than the Lego UCS. I mean, for sure. This I can't even process the scale of a vintage series Millennium Falcon. That would be super cool. I love that idea a lot. But yeah, what do you think about this Black Series Rancor? Is this something that you would back? Or are you going to hold off until you see some of the tiers get revealed? Let me know down in the comments below. Or you can always tweet me at btbdstarwars.com. We are at the hour mark here on what I think was a very rewarding and satisfying episode of Beyond the Blast Doors Live. It feels good to be back. Thank you for bearing with me. I think this was a show where we got to talk about a lot of cool different things. And I'm really excited about what's ahead for the show. And if you have any feedback, please, by all means, I want you to feel comfortable telling me what you think would make the show even better. What would make this more enjoyable for you? If you are watching this live, let's say you have me up on your TV right now, do me a favor, take a photo of you watching on your big screen. Tag me at BTBD Star Wars. I love seeing how people watch the show. I'd like to think that I look pretty good on an LG 65-inch mounted TV. I mean, I'm just saying, I think I would look good doing that. But yeah, this is our Star Wars conversation, and I enjoyed it. I took my time. I hope you noticed that. And there are some things that are a little bit different. Especially there are some things I'm going to have more scripted. When I have a point that I want to deliver, I just want to be able to deliver that point. And I want to cut down on the rambling. I feel like if I can be more efficient in delivering my point about Star Wars, the news of the day, or an epiphany that I had watching, The Phantom Menace for the 5,000th time, if I can deliver that concisely in 2.5 minutes, and that can allow for more conversation, then I'm down. I'm down for that. I also would love to see that, we get these topics done sooner in the show, and maybe we can bring people on. If you have a webcam set up, and you got an idea that you want me to discuss, we'll do like a call-in show. We can do that. We can have that fun. I'm okay with that. The sky is the limit. But of course, you can always follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at BTBD Star Wars. We go live here right now, 9 p.m. Central, so 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, Wednesday nights. But that schedule could change. I want to get a few shows under my belt. But, during the work week, it's tough for me to do any earlier because this is still a hobby. This is not my main source of income by any means. And so there is a possibility this gets moved to the weekend. There's a possibility that maybe some former crew members Beyond the Blast Door Live make their return. That could happen. Okay. And we just get to do it together. So that's pretty exciting. Before we get out of here, I do want to take some time and say a big thank you to our Patreons: Fanboy Cantina, Dr. Raven Spencer, Apprentice Ewok, Robert Gillis, Marie E. Wilson, and Steve Webster. Thank you for supporting our Star Wars conversation over on Patreon. I'm going to be spending some time here in the next week organizing a town hall for our Patreon, because it's really important to me that moving forward, we have a conversation of what's the expectation and what do we really want out of our Patreon experience. It will include live streams, maybe gaming nights, a lot of Battlefront 2, or maybe it's, other games. But what's the culture that we want to build there? We're looking to redefine that as we move into this next phase of Beyond the Blast Doors Live. It's as simple as that. And so a big thanks to all of our Patreon supporters, because without their support, without the support of these individuals, again, it's Fanboy Cantina, Dr. Raven Spencer, Apprentice Ewok, Robert Gillis, Marie Wilson, and Steve Webster. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to keep supporting just the basic needs of the show. So by going on our Patreon and supporting us for as little as $5 a month, what you're doing for that is you're allowing us to truly keep the lights on with subscriptions, and light bulbs go out or whatever. My hope, I've always said, I'm not doing this to be to quit my day job and do this solely, but if I can break even And then we can also sneak in some pretty cool giveaway items for you for watching, and maybe collectible for me once in a while. Now, I think that's a pretty cool situation. So again, if you're interested, check us out. Go to patreon.com/Beyond the Blast Doors and check out which tier that you would like to support our Star Wars conversation. That's going to do it. Episode 115 is in the books. Big thanks for everyone joining us. We had Matthew, we had Ben, we had Pete, we had Scotty, we had JD, the crowd, we had Kat at one point in here. So a great chat. Please tell your friends. Beyond the Blast Doors is back. We are live, and we are so glad to have you as part of our Star Wars conversation here. And well, I think it's just time that I play myself out. It's really important for me to have the awareness that I should just play myself out. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for watching. Beyond the
Beyond
Blast Doors. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Doors. A Star Wars conversation.